Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Please smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Have your say, and a very warm welcome to Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily. First of all, let's talk about our first talking point, our main headline, because on a podcast, Ben Affleck has been talking about his Batman role in the Flash movie. We already know via that big interview via the Hollywood Reporter, he's literally only in 5 to 7 minutes of footage in the movie. He talks about being very, very proud of his performance. So he should. He says he's nailed it. He says it's a really, really good movie. He really rates the movie, the director, and his performance. He believes it's his best performance as Batman in the DC Extended Universe. That's very interesting. But Ben went further. He spoke about what actually happens in the movie and why he finally found a way to play Batman that he felt comfortable with. Now, we know he loves Batman versus Superman. That's his peak performance, if you ask me. So I'm very much aware of what he spoiled in this podcast. And he does give a big spoiler for a moment, his moment in the Flash movie. So I'm going to talk about it now. I have seen a test screening. I have seen this. So if you don't want to be spoiled about the Flash movie, you should really go away, fuck off, and come back once you've seen the movie in June. If not, here we go. He describes a moment when Wonder Woman rescues him with the lasso of truth. And then he starts to contemplate his life and be very honest about his feelings. He didn't go into detail about that. And because I know what exactly happens in that sequence, I don't want to spoil it any further. I've seen the test screening. I can't reveal stuff that hasn't been revealed by actors or the director or anyone working on the production publicly. I'm talking about this and I'm basically quoting what Ben said. But it is a very, very powerful moment, an interesting moment. What's even more interesting and powerful about this is this could be Ben's final appearance as the live-action DC Extended Universe Batman. So it's kind of a goodbye moment, if you like. So this could be his swan song. And if his appearance in The Flash is a swan song, what a great goodbye. And, of course, he spoils by saying all of this that Wonder Woman is actually at the beginning of this movie in the first act with him. So it's great to have Diana and Bruce, Batman and Wonder Woman, in this sequence together. But you know what makes me really, really sad, everyone, about this is that Henry Cavill's Superman doesn't get the same opportunity to have his swan song, to say goodbye. And for me, that's utterly wrong. And I do have a lot more to say about Ben Affleck and the James Gunn situation because a non-English speaking platform has revealed certain rumours about that situation. So stay right here and we'll get into it. Now, a non-English speaking platform has revealed certain rumours and details about the whole situation of James Gunn claiming that he was in talks with Ben Affleck to direct a DC Universe movie. The site claims that James Gunn was actually lying about the whole situation. And what he really wanted to do was make sure that he got to direct Superman Legacy and raise the funding for that movie by mentioning Ben Affleck. Now, there's no way we can prove any of this. I'm just telling you what's being said. Now, do I believe these claims? Yes, I absolutely do believe these claims. I do believe these are true claims. Absolutely. So it looks like Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery were trying to underfund a Superman movie because they are in a financial meltdown crisis, as the rest of this industry is right now, for reasons we detail all the time. But if you really had to go down to these depths to up the funding of the movie, and we're not sure if the funding was ever there, if they've actually put more funding and a higher budget into Superman Legacy. So this means this film could actually be in big trouble. You can't underfund a Superman movie. A Superman movie has to be an effects extravaganza, whether it was made in 1976 for a 1978 release, a 2004 production being released in 2006 in terms of Superman Returns, Man of Steel, etc., etc. Because Superman Returns has got great CGI sequences it can boast. Bryan Singer did a good job. There are inconsistencies with the VFX in that film, but there's also some really great moments. And Dick Donner, wow, how did he do all of that without any CGI and technology back then? Amazing. So it looks like James Gunn's already got a lot of challenges, but what this non-English speaking platform is saying, that basically that James Gunn publicly came out and said he and Ben Affleck were in talks for Ben to direct the DC Universe project just to up the budget of Superman Legacy. So maybe he wanted Zaslav to believe that he was in talks with Ben Affleck, because if Ben Affleck's in talks to direct Superman Legacy, maybe they'll want to give more money to the production. So it's a very interesting claim. Now, the reason this is being revealed by certain fans is to show how dishonest and nefarious James Gunn is, and they understand it. Again, I can't clarify any of this, but it is a very, very interesting situation. So, because if he lied about Ben Affleck being in talks with him, because let's be clear here, when he started saying this, Ben Affleck never came out publicly to clarify these talks. But, the non-English speaking platform went on to say this is the reason that Ben had to come out and speak the truth about not being interested in doing DC Universe movies. So did James Gunn make him the offer and Ben said no? Or was there never ever talks for this to happen? This is a very, very, very intriguing situation, if you ask me. Because if this is a lie, and it's interesting, because Gunn never responded to the Ben Affleck THR interview where he said, I would never make a DC Universe movie because that's not the way I want to make movies. Because basically, you have to listen to James Gunn. You have to do what they want. You can't make your own movie. Ben Affleck is actually an auteur filmmaker. And this is where I am today. I'm looking to consume the auteur projects, not the connected universes so much. That's not the thing that excites me. In fact, I don't think this excites many audiences anymore. When you look at Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania's box office, Shazam! Fury of the Gods box office, it doesn't bode well for connective universes, but there's real interest in the Penguin series, in the Batman 2, and Joker Folie à Deux. That's where the interest is. People are willing to follow auteurs like Zack Snyder, Matt Reeves, Denis Villeneuve, and Todd Phillips anywhere they want to go within making a movie. Because people are understanding now. It's better to embrace something that's made by someone where it's personal to them. When it's personal to them, it ends up being a better movie. Braveheart is personal to Mel Gibson. Passion of the Christ is even more personal to Mel Gibson. They're two of the best films I've ever fucking seen. Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, the Snyder Cut. I would say that Batman vs. Superman and the Snyder Cut are extremely personal to Zack Snyder. They're two of the best CBMs I've ever fucking seen. When something's personal, when you're making something that's personal, if you're molding a piece of clay into something that's personal to you, maybe your dead mother, someone who meant something to you, it's going to be a work of art. The Mona Lisa is personal to the artist that makes it. That's why it's one of the most iconic pieces of art we've ever seen. And that's the point I'm making. So I want to follow people who are making something that's personal to them. That's where my interest is in movies and entertainment in general, but certainly with comic book movies, because basically mainstream comic book movies are dead. That's why it really, really interests me what happens with the box office of Guardians of the Galaxy, because either Guardians of the Galaxy makes $1 billion, is well loved, and it disperses the myth of, superhero fatigue, or it confirms it. So that's going to be a very, very interesting situation. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Comment on this premiere if you like. Do you believe that James Gunn lied about being in talks with Ben Affleck about directing a DC Universe movie? I think it's a possibility. More realistically, maybe Ben just said no to him, but it is a weird situation, and it's normally James Gunn reacts to these things straight away. He has not responded to what Ben Affleck said in that THR interview when he said, I would never touch, basically he said, I'd never touch a DC Universe movie with a barge pole. There was no reaction from James Gunn. So if it is a lie, it makes sense that he's not going to say anything. Will he ever say anything about it? It's very, very interesting, because he's been online since. He's avoided that discussion. He's mentioned other things. He's tried to expose other kind of fake lies and rumors and all that. But he hasn't responded to that one, which I find very, very interesting. Whether you call it the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe, or DC Universe, to me, the whole thing is a PR disaster, a PR nightmare. And Jason Momoa is not helping this situation. He was quoted yesterday in saying he's certain that his Aquaman will be involved in the new DC Universe. I'm not opposed to that. I love Jason Momoa as this character. Now, don't forget, I have seen a very early test screening of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. He said this about the movie. He loves acting with Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson feels like a real-life brother to him. And he loves doing comedy. And he said there's no one bigger than Aquaman. And he's sure that Aquaman will be involved in DC Universe. The only element that's worrying people about this quote is he said, I love doing comedy. This, my friends, is a PR nightmare and a PR disaster. Because people who loved the first film, and there was a little few gags in that film, but it wasn't overpopulated with comedy, and that was a good thing. That film made over $1 billion because it was epic, the visuals from James Wan were beautiful, the movie had it fucking all. It was brilliant. By Jason coming out and saying, I love doing comedy, isn't what people want to hear. And this is the problem. These people are a PR disaster. He's coming out saying exactly the same things as Zachary Levi was saying before Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And look what happened there. We've already heard about test screenings not being very positive for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And then he comes out and says, I love doing comedy, because they actually think that's what people want to hear. They're out of touch with what the audience want. They don't even care what the audience want anymore. I am stunned after seeing Shazam! Fury of the Gods flop that they haven't learnt their lesson. That's not what people want to see. People don't want to see any more brightly spray painted CBM. They want depth. They want emotion. They want great VFX. And to be fair, the VFX is pretty solid in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. So your question to me will be, Mick, well, you've seen a test screening, or so you say. We know how cynical and mistrusting people are. I understand. I get it. There's a lot of con artists out there. So, Mick, you're going to ask me, is it a sitcom? Is he right? Is there comedy in this movie? I'm going to tell you exactly what this movie is. It's what I've told you many, many times. This is a road movie. This is a buddy-buddy movie between Jason Momoa's Arthur, aka Aquaman, and Orm, right? This is a movie where they're together. There are gags in this movie. There is funny stuff in this movie. But from what I saw, and this was an early test screening, and as we know, they change these movies, re-edit them as they get more and more test screenings, right? And we know the more their negative test screening reactions, the more they'll change the movie, reshoot it, re-edit it. From what I saw, the gags were minimal. There was great character development between the relationship of Orm. Patrick Wilson, again, is fantastic as he was in the first movie. And I think Jason Momoa's acting, the acting between both of them, their screen chemistry is brilliant. But I would say there's more comedy in this film than there was in the first, but I wouldn't say it's a fucking sitcom or anything like that. And this is why I feel that the PR that Jason's doing is really, really uncomfortable. And I don't understand where a studio, an actor, have seen one movie fail and they come out and say something like this. It's a disaster. Now, this quote may have been said prior to the release of Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And of course, once you open Pandora's box, you can't close it again, can you? So it's been said. The quote's been released. Now, as bad as the whole thing that I love doing comedy is, because that's not what people want to hear. People don't want to hear that this is a sitcom. Now, everyone's thinking that this movie's a fucking sitcom. And I promise you, it's not. It's absolutely different to the first movie. The visuals are great. It's stunning. It looks stunning. All of that, right? It looks as great as the first movie. But it's a more emotional, character-driven story. And I was all right with that. Now, maybe people won't like that element, get bored of that element. People call too much dialogue slow pacing these days. That's where we are today. Blame Kevin Feige and the way he's produced and made Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and kind of, if you like, groom the audience into watching things that are not that deep. But anyway, I liked what I saw. I'm not sure if I would say it's better or worse than the first movie. That's for audiences to decide, and that's for me to decide once I see the final cut of the movie with everyone else in movie theatres. But I think one of the other elements is how he's certain he's going to be part of DC Universe. Now, when Zachary Levi was asked this question, he said, well, I don't know what's going to happen. It's about box office. Well, if it's about box office, he's fucked. But he said he kept on mentioning that he's good friends with Peter Safran. Now, for me, that should never matter. But in Hollywood, it's who you know, not what you know, and we know that. So, according to Jason Momoa, he will be involved in DC Universe. But will it be in another Aquaman movie, or will he just cameo now and again? The problem here with all of this DC Universe stuff is, if someone like Zaslav is able and willing to shelve a Batgirl movie, then is he able to just say, do you know what? This DC Universe thing isn't working out for me. Now fuck it, we'll shelve it and we'll do something else. I think he's a very reactive man. And even though we've got a semi-slate already, don't be surprised if out of nowhere he just fires James Gunn and Peter Safran. But to me, it looks like he's stuck with them. Someone made a good point on Twitter, how he believes probably Walter Hamada made sure that Safran and Gunn were in their positions before he left. But as far as we're aware, that wasn't the case. We were told, or if you believe it or not, that Zaslav was looking for the best people for the job. And as I discussed yesterday, you know, I'm not saying Safran's a terrible producer. I'm not saying Gunn's a bad writer-director. I think he's a good, not great writer-director. But were these people the best people? Out of all of Hollywood and the industry, were they the best people for the job? Who's the better person to run DC Studios, Bruce Timm or James Gunn? You don't need me to tell you what to think there. Anyone who knows anything about DC and what Bruce Timm's done for DC animation knows what the better decision would be. Maybe Bruce feels he's too old to do it. Maybe Bruce didn't want to do it. Maybe Bruce was never asked to do it. But the point being, James Gunn isn't the best person for the job. This is not about agendas, everyone. This is about being honest with your audience about your views. And I think yeah, it's all incredibly interesting. And the Jason Momoa statement is certainly interesting. The whole thing about it, loving doing comedy is a disaster. He should never have said it. We know that test screenings haven't been positive for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. So we're going to have to wait till December to see what this actual movie does. But the next DC movie coming is the Flash movie. Will it make the money they want it to make? By the way, David Zaslav is demanding $2 billion at the very least. I'm not joking here. My sources, my people are telling me he wants a lot of money for this movie. Now, they're still spreading the narrative that this is the best film from DC since The Dark Knight. And I can't help but snigger and smirk about that. As you know, I have big knowledge about this movie. I'm not saying it's bad. I liked what I saw, but I haven't seen the finished product yet. So I'm not going to sit here because I've seen a test screening and say, oh my God, best thing since The Dark Knight. I really liked what I saw. There were many twists in the movie. In a lot of ways, it was like an episode of 24 rather than a Flash movie. It's got a lot of interesting twists. It takes Ezra Miller's Barry to a great place emotionally and narratively, and I genuinely like the film. Whether or not people are going to say this is the best thing ever, whether it's going to make the $2 billion that Zaslav wants, I don't know. Well, time will tell, won't it? Chris Pratt, in promoting the Mario movie, and I really like what he's saying, it's one of my most anticipated movies coming out this year. That's going to be so much fun, and I'll definitely be reviewing that movie on this channel. Can't wait to see it, and I know a lot of you can't wait to see it as well. Well, Chris Pratt has been speaking about James Gunn's DC Universe and says he really believes in James Gunn, and if he got the phone call, he would definitely love to be involved with the new DC Universe. Now, I know a lot of fans are going to hate this. A lot of people hate the fact that Chris gets all these roles. But shall I be honest with you? I really like Chris Pratt. And like Chris Pine, he may be one of the last movie stars, genuine movie stars, that we have. So I've got a lot of time for Chris Pratt. And even though I'm skeptical about the whole DC Universe situation, I'm willing to be proven wrong about it. I think Chris Pratt would make an interesting Batman. I don't know about a perfect Batman. I don't know why I'm saying Batman, but I think that's the kind of character you could see him playing. Chris Pratt plays heroes very well, rugged, complex heroes, and that's what Batman and Bruce Wayne is. I think he would be a perfect Bruce Wayne in terms of wearing a tux, a suit, and being a charming Bruce Wayne. I think Chris Pratt was born to play that role. As Batman, I'm not so sure. Zack Snyder's spoken about Ben Affleck's perfect chin to play Batman under the mask, and Ben Affleck is a perfect Bruce Wayne and Batman, of course. But I'm not against this. Now, I understand I may get a lot of hate for saying this, but I can't help but love Chris Pratt. I love him in Guardians as Star-Lord. I think he's great. I thought he would have been a perfect replacement for Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, or maybe someone like another love child. I mean, Indiana Jones has obviously put it about right, but I do like Chris Pratt. I'm not against him being involved in DC Universe in the future. And just remember where I stand here. I want to see DC Universe happen, but I also want to see the Snyderverse restored on DC Elseworlds, and I want to see Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips' differing visions continue. And I want to see Constantine 2 from Keanu Reeves. I want it all. I don't want anything to replace the other. That's not what I'm doing here. I believe there's a place for all these visions, even though I feel all these Batman, maybe two different versions of Superman could be a little bit confusing for the audience, but we'll see how it works out for sure. I want to quickly talk about Superman and Lois, because this is a very interesting version of the Superman universe. It's very, very popular. And this season, we've seen the revelation that Lois Lane has cancer. And I think the fans are responding to that beautifully. It's really going in a different way than we've seen before. and I think it's really unique and brilliant. And I think that this version of Superman can go on and on. With Henry Cavill gone, I think Tyler Hoechlin, despite him being a shorter actor in height than really you would expect someone playing Superman to be cast, I think Tyler has done a really good job, and I think Bitsy Tulloch continues to play a really, really great Lois Lane. She's not my favourite Lois Lane, nowhere near, but she's still doing a very good job as that character in that show. I'm not happy with the recast of John Kent. I'm not happy how they didn't support that actor at all through his depression and mental health issues, but that's Hollywood. But I just wanted to just say that I'm really enjoying that version of Superman. Have you ever heard of Love Lauren, the YouTuber? She's one of my favourite YouTubers. She actually reacts to movies. There's YouTubers now that watch movies and react to them on their channels for the first time. So Love Lauren is such a wholesome young woman. I love her. She's great. She really appreciates movies. She's reacted to Superman the movie, Superman 2. She adores Man of Steel. And yesterday she uploaded her reaction to Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. It's very interesting watching people's reactions to movies you love. And it's really emotional to me when I saw her react to the other movies. But I had this really weird revolutionary moment when I saw her enjoying Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. And it reminds me, not that I needed reminding, but in a different way, how special what Snyder did was. I think we're all sleeping on the fact how special Snyder was and his achievements with the DCEU and what he was doing. He was creating something unique, special, and brilliant. And he was bullied out of the franchise and the studio by the studio and by a lot of people who believed what he was doing was wrong. No, what he was doing was right. He was doing the opposite of what Marvel Studios were doing instead of doing the same thing. Because I still don't believe that was the right way to go at that time. Because it's just copying and pasting what other people are doing. And when people see you trying to repeat and chase after somebody else's success, they start thinking, well, you're just a rip-off merchant. We're not going to watch you. You're just copying what they're doing. What Zack Snyder was doing was so original. He was telling a proper story and making his own versions of these iconic DC characters. I genuinely believe what he was doing will be remembered in the next 50 to 100 years. And I think that what Kevin Feige Marvel Studios was doing will be easily forgotten. Nobody remembers box office, everyone. People remember great art. I mentioned the Mona Lisa earlier. Great works of art are remembered. Great pioneers are remembered. Zack Snyder was and is a pioneer. This is why Rebel Moon is one of my most anticipated movies of 2023, because that's what I'm hungry for now. Pioneers, visionaries that are making stuff that means something to them. If it means something to you as a director, it's going to mean something to me. It was Quentin Tarantino's birthday the other day, and I have exchanged views with Quentin before. He's a fascinating human being. And he's got a famous quote where he says, you don't need film school, you don't need to know the lenses on a camera, you just need to love film to make great film. And when you look at Christopher Nolan, the evidence is there. He didn't study cameras, he didn't study film, but he makes great movies. Think about that for a minute. And I think they're the kind of directors I want to follow. Quentin Tarantino isn't trained, but he makes great, unique movies that ooze his personality. And these are the kind of directors that I want to follow right now. I am done with the pre-packaged crap we've been sold by Marvel Studios. And look at the consequences they're facing now by betraying their own fan base. It's all very interesting stuff. I think the way that DC can actually win is by allowing people like Snyder and Reeves and Phillips and Villeneuve to do their thing. I think Villeneuve, let him do whatever he wants. He's busy with Dune, right? Can't wait to Dune Chapter 2 because the first film was fucking perfection. As I say, when a film means something to you, ultimately it's going to mean something to me. The first Star Wars film, A New Hope, was a personal movie for George Lucas. It meant something to him. It meant something to all of us. Same with Empire, same with Return of the Jedi. And I mean, even though he got a lot of criticism for the prequels, they meant something to him. And that's the point. When you're making something, when you're going through the motions, ultimately it ends up being something very, very hollow. And it's an interesting thing. All the great pieces of art that have meant something to the artist have actually ended up meaning something to the public as well and have lasted for years and years and years. And this is what I believe Snyder achieved. It's that old quote from Back to the Future. Maybe you're not ready for it now, but your kids are going to love it. That's exactly what Snyder achieved. People today weren't ready for his type of stuff because they were too busy eating pre-packaged meat. This has been Wednesday's edition of the DC Universe Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please smash the like button if you love me. Subscribe if you're new. Have your say in the comments down below. And I will see you again. Smash the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again in the next video. Until I see you again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.